Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to another video. The ongoing saga of my air pump build. Now, I had hoped to be a little bit further along on this build that I'm getting to this week. I wanted to have the flywheel mounted in these uprights and in a position where I can give it a spin and show you details for how the future videos are going to go, where things are going to be and that sort of stuff, to give you a better visual for it. But unfortunately, I am finding that each of these stages now are involving more decisions, more planning, and also, of course, a lot more precise layout. These are actually a pretty good example. These are going to be the two uprights. They're going to be where the flywheel is actually going to be manipulated from. And like I said, they have to be as precise as I can make them. So what I'm doing here is I'm machining them flat and at exactly the same time. So they are going to be exactly the same length. And I suppose that's a bit more than I need to do, but like I said, as these things continue, any kind of error that creeps in is just going to unfortunately multiply, and I don't really want that to happen. So there you go, exactly the same, and I'll flip it over and do the same to the other side. And one of the things I wanted to do, because this is at some point in time going to need some kind of finish on it, I took one of them and spent a bit of time on it and sanded it down and got most of the scratches out of it. I wasn't spending, I didn't want to get it to be, perfect, because this is going to have a lot of work done to it still, and it'll just end up getting scratched up. But I wanted to have some idea so that in the future, when I decide to actually put a finish on this, I can have an idea how much time it's going to take and stuff like that. So this is the layout for how the upright's going to work. This is the uprights on their base, and the flywheel is going to go between them like this. And the next step is to mount these securely, and I find in these brackets I made really helpful for that. And because I'm doing these both at the same time, the hole will end up being quite precise between them. But also you'll notice that the drill bit I'm using here, it's 1/4 inch, which is the size of the bolts I use, but it's way smaller than the actual shaft that's on the flywheel. And that's done deliberately because, first off, I want to mount this to some plywood, some hardwood plywood, just to give an extra secure mount for this. And then once these are drilled properly and tapped and everything and mounted on the base plate, I want to ream these out to their final dimension for the shaft at the same time and mounted where they belong. So if any kind of small error creeps in their position between now and then, it will be rendered unimportant, because the final reaming, like the final sizing for this, will end up getting rid of any of that kind of error that might creep in. So obviously I don't need to mount these as solidly as I am because of that step that I'm planning on doing. But again, like I said, it's just trying not to get sloppy all the way along. So this is the wood I'm going to use. It is actually, believe it or not, probably a little bit more flexible than what I probably should have used. It is hardwood plywood, but it is not metal. And when you are clamping down as hard as I am in some of these things, I find actually that there is a little bit of movement. It's not enough, I think, to cause any real error, but you'll notice in a video clip coming up, probably, yeah, this video is long, in about 10 minutes, I am going to introduce another clamp into this, and that is to try and alleviate a little bit of slippage I was noticing. But as you can see, at this point it is mounted firmly enough and square enough for the next step. But before we get to that, I need to prepare the base plate. So what I've done here is I've scratched in the marks I need and mounted it firmly. I also added some black marker so you guys can see the lines better. Actually don't need it personally because I've angled the light for this in the right position so it kind of shines off and emphasizes the scratches for me. But I don't think the camera picks them up that well, so I gave you little guys a little contrast here. So there are 8 holes here. The 4 on the outside are going to be holes which are going to mount this to whatever I decide to end up mounting this whole air pump to. and the 4 on the inside are the ones that are going to go to the uprights. So these all need to be drilled and countersunk. So these ones here are going to be down, facing down. So I'm going to countersink them in this position. But after I drill all 8 holes, I will be flipping this over, and then I am going to countersink the 4 inside ones because they're going to face up. These ones here aren't really that important. I probably didn't even need to countersink them, but I just wanted it out of the way just in case other things come up. And this way it's just, like I said, it's just neater, and actually I find it looks a lot nicer. But anyway, like I said, it wasn't really that important. You can see here the black marker is already disappearing quite a bit. So this is actually a really straightforward, and because it is mounted to the platform on my milling machine, these are going to be perfectly perpendicular holes, which is really nice. And that allows to get rid of a lot of error that can creep in at a very early stage if you have even just the slightest angle when you're trying to put a bolt through. One mistake I did make, though, I was trying to be a little too precise and a little too tight with my tolerances. The countersinks ended up being exactly the diameter of the bolts heads that are going through here, and I end up having to, after a test fit, end up reaming out another 64th of an inch because it was just binding a little bit when I was trying to put them in. And again, this is just sometimes you just get a little too anal, I think, with this, and I have to redo something. It was a quick fix, but again, it was something that I could have avoided, and hopefully I might have been actually able to get a little further along on this than I did if I had saved that time. So there you go. That's how it's going to fit, and I just need to flip it over and remote the other 4 holes. And like I said, this is one of those precision things that takes a little bit of time to originally plan out and mark out, but once you actually get to the point where you're doing the machining, it is actually reasonably quick. It's not like I don't have a DRO or anything, which actually made this way simpler, but my mill is, well, going on to 30 years old, and I don't think DROs existed then. It's certainly not in my price bracket, that's for sure. So anyway, I'm going to mount this firmly down again. The position's not really that important, because when I flip this over, I mean, again, if I had a DRO, it would be different. But what I do instead is I put in the 1/4 inch drill bit. Here you go, here, and I do small adjustments until when I put the drill bit through the hole, I don't hear anything. It doesn't make any sound, and I give it a slight turn just to make sure it's just not the position's proper, and then I change out the drill bit to the size for the countersink, and then I go ahead and proceed with putting that in. And I do that for all 4 holes. It doesn't take any real length of time, and I find it's more than precise enough for what I do here. And the only reason why I can be certain of that is if you had the drill bit just even slightly out of alignment with the hole, one of the flutes would cut initially before the other flute, and then what you end up with is a chattering sound, and that's pretty much how I know it's not set up properly. So this is how it's going to sit, and those are going to go down into whatever that's going to end up being. And these are going to be up into this. So we're all set now to flip this over, mount it into the vise, and that alignment actually took a fair amount of time. I had to get this square in all the dimensions, and then the easy part, of course, was to transfer the hash marks from the base plate over into one hole here. I'm not doing them all. What I'm going to do is I am going to drill and tap this one, and then, as I've done before in other projects, I am going to use that as an anchor. So what I'm going to do is have that all done, and then I'm going to firmly bolt that the base plate in place here, and then move on to the next step for this, which is getting the other 3 done. I find that doing that really does increase my precision in this. And you're going to notice here shortly coming up, there's going to be a slight movement in one of the arms. I think it's the one on the top of the screen there. And like I said, in the beginning of this, I'm bolting this to plywood, which is not as solid as if I were bolting it to metal, but obviously a lot faster. So what I did after that, you'll see in the next couple clips coming up, I put an additional clamp on this just to ensure that I'm not getting any wiggle. The first one is not really critical because it went in, the drill bit went in straight. Some of this wiggling here probably moved it around a little bit as I'm doing the tapping, but that's fine. But the future holes, if I had not taken the time to be a little bit more rigid with my support here, they may end up going in not vertical, and then you end up with issues with it not lining up properly. You notice what I'm doing here is I'm putting the WD-40 hose down to the bottom of it, and what I'm doing is just trying to rinse out a lot of the little bits and pieces that of aluminum that get down in there. And I'm tapping way deeper than I need to, and I also drilled way deeper than I need to. I don't have, as you can see, the tap I have has a point on it. It's not a bottom tap. It doesn't. You can't thread all the way to the bottom of a hole. So I made the hole a lot deeper than I needed, and as you see, I'm threading this in a lot deeper than I need to go as well, just so that I don't have to worry about that sort of stuff. So what I've done here, I got the clamp on now. I've got the vise holding everything tight, and what I've done is I put the 1/4" drill bit back in. Now obviously I'm not drilling all the way through with 1/4". I'm just going down just a touch just to start it off, because the 1/4" drill bits are, well, a little slightly larger in diameter, so they're less likely to wander. And so I'm going to I start like just do a little tap of a hole that way, and then I put in the threading size, and then I'm not going all the way to the bottom. I'm not doing the full length because I don't want to end up damaging any of the holes that I've already done. So I'm just going down about 1/4 inch, just so I know when I set these up for the rest of the drilling after I remove this base plate that I'm going in the proper hole. So there you go. I'm going to do the last one as well. I'm going to take this base plate off, and then I'm going to go through the process of drilling down all the way to the bottom, and of course tapping them and all that stuff. And I'm going to show you most of it because this video is already going to be 14 plus minutes long. But I do want to, like I said, I wanted to show you at least most of the steps involved anyway. For this one hole, I didn't have to worry about it because it was already in position, so I just went straight ahead and did that, and it's fine. So, but again, the process is the same for the other two. And then, like I said, I'm not going to show you all of that. So we're getting pretty close to the end here. I do want to show you this all mounted up. Before I get to that, though, if you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe, and definitely leave me in comments below what you think. One of the steps here I forgot to mention, and like I said earlier, was I had to remote the countersinks a little bit more. I've only done the 4 on the one side, so I have to remember to do the 4 on the other side before I get to the next step as well. Like I said, this is getting really quite late when I was doing this, and that is the reason why I actually didn't finish this, is because the next step is really important, and I didn't want to be tired and make a wrong decision at this point, because this took a fair amount of time to get to. So there you go. This is all mounted up now. I'm going to show it to you here, and then also I am going to show you kind of like a mini mock-up for what this is going to be, how it's going to sit. This is obviously going to be bolted in place, and it is going to have the flywheel rod is going to fit through those holes once I ream them out. And this is just to show you that the hole was just a little bit off. It's not enough to make it so that it won't fit, but it is a little bit off. So that's, again, another reason why I wanted to make sure that hole was smaller at this stage and then ream it out later. So this is how it's going to go, and I said next time we'll show you that again, and hopefully have this spinning and get on obviously to much further along on this than this. And anyway, thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next video, and bye for now.